Hi everybody, welcome to another Chats with Chaudhry. I hope you're safe and well. The sun is shining outside my window, even though I've got the blinds down so you can see it's already hitting one side of my face. So it's a glorious day here in Surrey. And I'm hoping it's sunny where my guest today is, because I'm delighted to be joined by Paul Priebe, who is from Qosina, and we are going to be taking part in our Reflections and Forecasts series for 22-23, where we look back in the last 12 months and also look ahead to 2023 and get Paul's views in terms of what his thoughts and predictions are for the year. So first of all, Paul, it's lovely to see you, my friend. Happy New Year. How are you?
Happy New Year. Doing much better than the last time we spoke. I had a little post-COVID cough that it took some time to shake, but I'm much better now.
Fantastic. And look, I know this isn't part of the interview, but I know you've been in Miami last week visiting Advanced Therapies Week. So very quickly, for viewers who didn't get a chance to go, and I didn't sadly get to go, how was the event?
Very good. I was only able to be there for one day, but I was able to walk the exhibit hall and listen to a little bit of the plenary stuff. And yeah, the exhibit hall was crowded. Every booth was sold, I think. And there was a lot of good energy, great conversations. I was there last year, of course, and there was still sort of I would say, a reduction in the crowd from COVID, but this year was quite busy, and it was a great show.
Fantastic. Well, I'm glad you're feeling better, more importantly. Now, before we start talking about the last 12 months and your views on it, for viewers who are not familiar with Qosina, can you give me a quick overview of the business?
Sure. Qosina is a supplier of single-use process components and, components in general to both the medical device and bioprocess industries. We really only serve the regulated businesses, and all our business practices and everything we do is aligned to the needs of the industry, such that we can be a supply chain outsource partner. We have a large warehouse. It is our ambition to have inventory of everything so we can serve people's demand immediately, and so we do that for the medical device and single-use bioprocess industry.
Brilliant. Well, we're going to talk about supply chain, I think, in a bit more depth in a little while.
Yes, I think so.
So my first question related to 2022, though, is how would you describe the year in one word and why?
One word. So that's tough for me, for people who know me. I would say dichotomous.
Oh, that's maybe a very good word. I haven't heard that word used before in this context. And why would you say that?
Well, it was a bit of a tale of two halves. The first half of 2022, we were still in the thick of the supply chain crises and extraordinary demand of 2021 from direct demand of COVID therapeutics and vaccines, but also indirect demand of I think there was some panic buying, and there was a lot of competition for single-use materials to serve the needs of COVID and non-COVID bioproduction. And so that really carried over into 22 through the first half. And then we had a rapid softening of demand in the second half of 22, and sort of a resetting and realization of that this would not go on forever. And I think that's a common theme. Certainly, this is a big topic of every supplier and business person in this industry. And so you don't go to a show or network with any of your friends without talking about, well, what was 22 like, and where are we going in 23, which I'll share as we move on.
Right. Now, obviously, for 2022, I know there was a lot of things happening at Qosina as a business. So what were some of the main highlights and achievements for you as a business in 2022?
Yeah, well, it was a little bit interesting because I joined Qosina at the end of 2019, just prior to COVID, to lead the strategy to join and serve the needs of bioprocess customers. And so we spent 2020 really building up the portfolio and getting organized, which was better to be lucky than smart. We were somewhat ready when things blew up in 21, because we had let's say, completed the basic portfolio, and we were able to serve these needs. And going into 22, same thing. We have served these customers for years, but all of a sudden they needed many, many more things and different volumes and different needs. So I think we really helped a lot of customers manage through the crises of 2021 and 22 successfully, getting them the components that they needed for building single-use systems, or even serving direct end users with components, because there was a little bit of an uptick of people building their own single-use systems because of the supply chain problems. So let's say tube sets that they then autoclaved. So that was sort of, it was a very reactive time. Although we're working on things for the future, and which we'll talk about, but really it was head down, do the work, supply the components, serve our customers at a high level.
Right. And from an industry perspective, you touched on it a little bit already. We're talking about supply chain, but what would you see as sort of the biggest challenges within the sector, but also some of the biggest developments in the last 12 months within the sector?
Well, I think in general, the supply chain was, or the transparency and the communication through the supply chain it leaves a little to be desired. We, past, let's say in the past 20 years of being in this industry, the past was a reasonable predictor of the future, and there was not a high dependency on really good transparency to end demand and letting that flow through from, drug product manufacturing to drug substance manufacturing to batch, bills of materials to batch records flowing through the suppliers and to suppliers and sub-suppliers. That really doesn't happen. I think there's an enormous opportunity for growth in that direction. And so there was really a bullwhip effect that happened in 21 and 22, where demand spikes and amplified demand signals are reaching sub-suppliers. And there are some, tough stories out there, people who scaled up, invested a lot of money, and now are sitting there with empty factories and laying people off. So it's a little bit of a tough lesson for a lot of us. But I don't know if, I don't want to be too doom and gloom. I mean, at the end of the day, it was, I would think, sort of more like a war footing where,
Sure.
the industry stepped up to serve the public health crisis, and did so effectively. And a lot of people who maybe are suffering the after effects of having scaled their businesses to do so, I think should look back and be proud of their contribution to the effort to create life-saving vaccines and therapies.
I mean, do you think, though, funny enough, I interviewed someone yesterday, which will come up in a few days, where we were talking about COVID, and obviously everybody's in the mainstream press maybe talking about how we've come out of it, so to speak, whereas others would say we aren't out of it, and in fact, with the variants happening, there's a good chance that things will blow up again at the back end of the year. Now, I don't want to be doom and gloom about that, but there is that possibility. So do you think that warp speed spend and everything, now there's been a drop off, that we made up because COVID hasn't really gone away and that money should still be spent? Or do you think that the growth of ATMPs maybe will help to make up that shortfall that's occurring, if you like?
Well, I think warp speed was a necessary thing, because in no other situation will the market bet on more than one horse in the same race.
Sure.
Or every horse in the race to win, right? That was the bet that the U.S. government made, and governments around the world made, was to pre-buy vaccines at their own risk. And so, it was a successful situation. But when you had 183 or some number like that candidates in clinicals, And now we're down to, I think, globally in the less than 10 that are actually in manufacturing. Frankly, I haven't even watched what's happening with the other 183 if people are still trying to get funding to move through clinicals with those. But that was a unique situation. So there was capacity spent to make vaccines at no risk to the vaccine producer, which doesn't happen in a normal clinical development situation. So that sort of created this artificial demand, let's say.
Yeah, I was just
that
about to say
doesn't
the word
exist in normal
sure.
times. But I don't think that, I think as the platforms that are used to manufacture vaccines have seemed to have proven themselves to be adept at being used as a platform approach, tweaking the target, but still using the base technology. And of course, that's how flu works. That's how any seasonal thing works, where you use a platform. Otherwise, you'd be in a clinical every year, and that's simply not going to work. I mean,
Sure.
They're still in clinicals, but you know what I mean.
Sure. Okay. And how, because obviously you said you work a lot with single use, obviously, and help people with single use process and technologies. Does the growth of ATMPs help you in any way? Because forgive my ignorance, because obviously I'm not always that au fait with all the technologies and how much they use single use or not. So has the growth of single use and the growth of ATMPs, I suppose, impacted the use of single use is the question I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, I think, well, regardless of, I would say all biopharmaceuticals, ATMPs or anything else will rely heavily on single-use technology for the core underlying benefits that are just indisputable. There was some talk, of course, during the crunch. Oh, this will be the death of single use. We have to go back to stainless steel. And then, okay, wait 5 years to build a stainless steel factory, right? I mean, it's a good thing we had single use technology because we could pivot capacities easily. A single use bioreactor or whatever the core technologies are implementable in much shorter timelines. ATMPs are interesting in that certainly you kind of have to, of course, break them down to not the patient view of the drug products, but in the process view. From a autologous cell therapy standpoint, clearly single-use technology is the only way to go when you're talking in process volumes in the single liter kind of range, and parallel scale up being the way to serve those patients. I think there's no argument whatsoever for reusable technologies there. In allogeneic or in gene therapy, they can look a lot more like bulk bioprocess, small scale MAB production kind of situation from across the room. Of course, the unit ops are different, but scale wise and what you can get done. And that's a sweet spot for single use technology as well, right? If you're talking 200, 500 liter working volumes at the bioreactor and then, onward from there. So I think all of these different modalities that exist have the same basic requirements that single-use technology slots quite well into, and a lot of that is real just business benefit and financial risk reduction. If you can delay a capital expenditure decision until later in the clinical phases, the chances of being right with your bet are, somewhere in the 4 to 8 times higher, depending on how long you delay that decision and have the clinical data to support your decision. What CEO would ever bet on anything else except single-use technology? So I think we have to do our homework to make sure that there's no con associated with that pro. And that's some of the lessons that I think we'll take from the supply chain crises of 2022 and 21 and do our homework to make sure that we're serving the needs of bioprocessors, in sickness and in health.
And so one extra question based on that, though, is that as someone who supplies a wide range of different products, or components would be the right word, for single-use technologies, does the rise of ATMPs mean that you have to add to your catalog, or does your existing catalog, because you have got literally, I know, hundreds, if not thousands of
Yeah.
products within that catalog? So does the rise of different technologies across ATMPs mean that you have to add to that catalog, or I'm sure there'll be certain things that you need to add, but it doesn't alter what you have to supply greatly in terms of what you've already got in your inventory?
Yeah, the sort of the core basics of moving fluids and holding fluids, from moving them from one place to another, either in a transport bag or through a tube. These things are ubiquitous in any process. So we talk about tubings and tube-to-tube connectors and clamps and gaskets and bags and really basic stuff. But our ambition is to have everything that a single-use integrator would ever need to build anything to serve their customers. So it's a continuous process, and there's always new innovations and things that we'd like to be able to carry and help our customers with, and help suppliers as well, because many of these suppliers may not have a go-to-market strategy, and so a channel like Qosina makes good sense, as we're supplying virtually every integrator in the world with something. Sometimes something as simple as a pinch clamp, and other times a more comprehensive portfolio. So we'll be on a continuous journey. One of the lessons of 21 and 22, of course, is dual sourcing. So if you were to pick any category within our catalog, it's our intent to have every version of that function in the market. So for instance, tubing, carrying every major brand of tubing that's available. Sanitary flanges. I think we have 6 different suppliers of sanitary flange to barb adapters. So should there be an interruption within the supply chain, we've got the documentation and understanding of the materials of construction and all of the attributes of that component, and can assist customers in moving from one to another. It's an alternative, and this may be one of the lessons learned moving forward, is qualify more than one at the qualification stage. I think there's, it remains to be seen how the long-term impacts are, because that's a big effort, and it's like insurance, though. So
no, true. One final question on 2022. I think you've already answered it, though, but is there any area you think the industry could have done better in 2022?
Yeah, I think it's all about this demand transparency. There was, I think, expecting people to act altruistically when they're incentivized differently is difficult. But we saw many instances of being given an order, and whoever delivered it first got the revenue, and then the guy who was a day later got his order canceled at the 11th hour. I think that didn't help. It certainly amplified demand signals at the the point of manufacturing, and that's there's going to be a bit of a hangover from that. So I think that there's work to be done, and Qosina's become a member of the BioPharma Supplier Partner Forum, and we intend to really participate in developing best practices for that demand transparency and supply chain management best practices, so that we can, I think, have a better future.
Brilliant. Now let's look ahead to 2023. So from your perspective, from a sort of macro level, what do you see will be the big trends across life science, pharma and biopharma?
Well, there remains this hangover that we're unsure of how long it will take for demand to bounce back, because there's tales of bloated supply chains, both in finished goods inventory at the end users of single-use systems for manufacturing, and then potentially at various points in the supply chain and component inventory at integrators and things like that. So, we remain, and I think everyone I've spoken to in the industry remains bullish on the underlying value of single-use technology and the growth of the biopharmaceutical industry. There's a little bit of tightening of money, so that the money's going to be smarter, let's say, in picking companies and molecules. So we may see a little bit of a slackening of growth, but as molecules progress through the clinical phases and they're reliant upon single-use technology for manufacturing, there's an organic growth that's baked into the overall system. And then as you transition, the market share of single-use technology in commercial production remains rather small because of legacy molecules that use stainless steel. That will continue to drive the growth. And then, as you pointed out, ATMPs, new modalities, they'll provide opportunities. And the clinical pipelines are very exciting for instance, in the ATMP space. It's thousands of clinical molecules.
And there's two things I wanted to ask you. There's two things come up quite a lot when I talk to people. One is sustainability, and the other thing is the use of AI and machine learning. So in terms of, in your case, certainly maybe logistics, let's say, and making sure the supply chain is sort of not got those blocks anywhere. How much do you think the impact of AI and machine learning can help in terms of that, first of all? And then secondly, we can talk about sustainability and single use separately, if that's all right.
Sure. So AI and machine learning, I think, offers promise, but there's some basics that have to be accomplished first, because the data are not available to teach anybody anything. I think unless you try and correlate like prescription data, and you've got molecule tracking, and you know that this thing is used in this molecule, I think that there's just, your models would be frustrated to get correlation and causation out of any data sets that are publicly available today. It doesn't mean we can't enable that and jump over the manual phase, such that we say, well, these are the data sets that would drive the learnings. And rather than have this sort of learning phase of manual processes and trying to do translation through the supply chain, maybe we layer AI in. I'm not really aware of a strong effort on any of this stuff, but certainly there could be some. I've seen a few headlines where people are talking about it, but it's not something that we're working on.
Right.
We're a little old school, which is historical and forecasts, and our commitment to working capital to serve our customers is unmatched in the industry.
Right.
So inventory is a big part of what we do.
Sure, I understand that. And I know you are obviously there to make sure that you are like that one-stop shop to help your customers across their logistic needs. The other question, obviously, I said was about sustainability, because whenever people talk about single use and the use of single use, the sustainability will always come up, particularly obviously as it is such a big issue across everything, every industry you talk to and every consumer you'll talk to, and in the media it's always there. So for people who are listening to this and going, all right, what single use, so what is the impact, and how sustainable is it? What is your sort of answer to them from that perspective? And how do you see single use technologies developing going forward and sort of fitting within that sustainability area, if you like? and fulfilling that need?
Yeah. So I think that, well, first of all, somewhere around 20 years in single-use bioprocessing, and this is a subject that has been sort of going round and round for every year that I've
Sure.
been in the industry. And the answers are not easy to come by, and maybe are a little too convenient. And certainly in my time as a board member of the BPSA, we wrestled quite a bit with this because it's an industry topic. But there have been some significant life cycle analyses provided or performed, very complex with maybe 20 different measures of environmental impact, and in all cases, single-use technology is shown to actually have a lower impact than multi-use technology. It's very visceral to crumple up a 3,000 liter bag and struggle to fit it in a 200 liter trash bin, because it's just hard to manage, and it feels sort of wrong to do so. But we have to get away from feeling and more toward, you don't want to greenwash this. You want to have a purposefully done analysis and a decision. Doesn't mean that we can rest on our laurels and say it's greener, therefore we don't have to do anything. So, I mean, we're hearing about the development of resins, of using pyrolysis to break polymers back down to their, at the molecular level, so that they can be virgin again. I think I'm not a chemist, but this is how it's been explained. So you can take mixed polymers, and that's one of the challenges, of course, of a single-use system is you probably have at least polypropylene, polyethylene, silicone tubing. The polyethylene films are multi-layer, so those with different molecular weights in them, it gets quite tricky. Mechanically separating them and then recycling them is a bit of a nightmare. You've got potentially biohazard concerns. Each municipality regulates waste their own way, so having a standard approach across an industry is extraordinarily challenging. So there's so many obstacles, but people are working on it. In terms of thinking globally and acting locally, one of the things that Qosina is committed to is operating our business in a sustainable manner. And it's something that we don't just talk about, but we submit ourselves to third-party audit of our practices. And it's more comprehensive than sustainability, although that word can be applied across lots of things, but it's anti-slavery, anti-human trafficking, responsible supply chain management practices, and then of course includes the environmental piece. So, within the confines of our business, we're certainly doing our part to contribute to a sustainable supply chain. And the firm we use is EcoVadis, which is quite well known these days, and a few of our companies in the bioprocess industry are using EcoVadis as well. And we started with bronze, we moved to silver, and we're going for a gold rating in 23. So it's quite a commitment, but how we run our business is important to our customers and our suppliers, and to ourselves as well.
Fantastic. Well, that leads very nicely. What a perfect segue that is, Paul, because I was going to ask you, let's talk about Qosina in 2023 and share what you can. And I'm sure there'll be some things you can't share at this moment because they're in the pipeline of the secret. But what can people expect to see from Qosina in 2023?
Lots of good things. I think just last 2 weeks ago, we launched a service offering for irradiate to order, where any item in our bioprocess catalog can be specified to be irradiated to order. So we'll single pack and label the components, send them out for irradiation. And mostly this is targeted toward bioprocess end users And there's two sort of applications. One is they're built in, let's say, a process development application. They want to use parts that are relevant in terms of process contact components that have been irradiated, such that their experimental results are representative of the future state when they would transition into a industrialized single-use system that is irradiated for sterilization. The other application, of course, would be field modification of single-use systems, where a processor needs to change out a connector, let's say, and so they can use a connector that's been irradiated, bring it under a hood, and remove the other connector and replace it. So that's something we launched a few weeks ago, and so people may have seen advertisements and things around that.
And how's that gone so far? What's the feedback been? I know it's only been a couple of weeks, but what's the feedback so far?
We've gotten a few active projects running for that, and people have I think it serves an unmet need in our position as a component supplier. Certainly the OEMs don't want to do this, and many of the integrators are asked to do it, and it's not work that they think is the best use of their resources. So I think as a supplier of just components, this is a nice add-on for our customer base.
Great.
In order to help support that, of course, we needed to invest. I mean, we certainly have been for years repacking components in a clean room, right? Because one of our values is we will sell a quantity of one of anything. We have very low minimum order quantities, and so needing to do that repacking and downpacking in a clean room environment, we needed to expand our clean room capacity, and so we're about to cut the ribbon on our brand new clean room.
Congratulations!
Beautiful, quite an upgrade from our previous clean room, and so there will be a lot of videos, marketing, and photos of that. And then it also expands our ability to serve integrators with bill of material kitting. So that's an offering we've been working on with some integrators, where rather than them buying, let's say, 500 when they need 50, they would send us the full bill of materials for their customer build. We pack it in our clean room, ship it to them. They can receive it directly into their clean room and go directly to build. Saves their warehousing and kitting operations within their businesses, and provides a much more efficient way to do business. So it's sort of all we do is warehousing, kitting, and supply chain management. And if we each party stays in their lane, we can have a more efficient system.
That sounds really exciting. Well, it all looks really good, and also, as I said, reinforces what you're trying to do as a business, which is be that one-stop shop to help
exactly
people all the way through. So that sounds great. Fantastic, Paul. Look, as always, it's a pleasure talking to you on the wide topics around single-use technology. Have you got any last words for viewers for 2023?
Yeah, so I mean, certainly look for our 2024 catalog that'll be publishing in another month or so. So that we typically are on a 2-year publication schedule. So we're excited to, we're still committed to print. There's something about picking up the catalog and flipping through it that so far has not been replicated in an electronic environment on a website. I mean, certainly we're committed to our e-commerce site as well. So that'll be an exciting development. And then, of course, you'll continue to see announcements of new partnerships as a supplier to or distribution channel for more and more bioprocess components, just to keep raising our game to serve the needs of the bioprocess community.
Brilliant. Well, Paul, that's fantastic. Viewers, I hope you found that interesting. I certainly did. Paul's always very upfront and honest to answer any question I ask him, which is, I really appreciate that. And if you'd like
I may regret it someday.
Well, that's why people want to talk to you, Paul, because you're so straightforward and honest. That's the important thing. Transparency, as you said, is the key. But if you'd like to know more about Qosina and also about the various products and solutions they can help you with, then check out the link which will be above the video, so you can go straight to their website and learn more about them as there. But if you've got any questions for Paul, you can contact him via LinkedIn. But more importantly as well, Qosina are very active at exhibitions, attending many exhibitions both across North America and Europe and other parts of the world. But I'll only
That's
talk
right.
about North America and Europe because that's what I focus on. But other parts of the world as well. So you will be able to see Paul and his colleagues at an event near you in the not too distant future, I'm sure. So look out for that as well. So Paul, all this let me say is I really do wish you, your loved ones, everyone at Qosina a fantastic 2023. I hope it's filled with success, joy, happiness, and good health, my friend. I look forward to catching you in person at a show in the not too distant future as well.
Great. Thanks, Rizwan.
And viewers, the same to you. Happy New Year. And I've said it every time, but it's still not the end of February, so I feel I'm all right to say this. And I hope you have a fantastic 2023. And until next time, as always, stay well and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Cheers.